Hello everybody, and welcome back to Game Critiques. In recent years, I think it's fair to say that, at least to a large portion of its audience, Pokémon has been pretty disappointing. It seemed like it might be impossible for a new mainline game to come out without bringing with it some form of controversy. And before its release, Pokémon Legends Arceus didn't necessarily look any different. The changes to the formula looked promising, but you couldn't go anywhere near it online without seeing people complain about the environment, or the frame rate, or the empty-looking worlds, etc. But in the weeks leading up to launch, when copies started to leak online, the mood around the game started to shift. During the week leading up to launch, it was hard to go anywhere without seeing someone who got early raving about how it was surprisingly good. And when it was released to the public, people genuinely seemed happy. There were still some complaints about the graphics and whatnot, and there are definitely improvements that could be made. But after playing it myself, I have to say that I get the hype. This may just be the best Pokemon game ever made. Pokemon has always had a really strong core appeal. The titular pocket monsters are incredibly well designed, the gameplay is easy to grasp but it hides some depth, and the process of training up your creatures and seeing them evolve and grow more powerful over time is super satisfying. It's not hard to see why the original Game Boy titles hooked so many people when they were released 25 years ago. But in the past 25 years, gaming has changed a lot. The original Pokemon games didn't have any 3D models, they didn't have any online support, they didn't even have color. And most huge gaming franchises changed with the times. Mario went from 64 to Odyssey, Zelda from Ocarina of Time to Breath of the Wild. It's very clear that no matter how much you dumb down the graphics, those new games wouldn't work on the N64. Pokemon, on the other hand, has struggled quite a lot in this regard. Sword and Shield has some bad open world sections called the Wild Areas, but other than that, there's nothing about it that makes me think it couldn't have been designed with the Game Boy in mind. The environments are simple, traversal is limited, and battles work just about exactly the same as they always have. Sticking to your roots like this isn't always a bad thing. Dragon Quest has been using the same basic combat system for almost 40 years now. But Dragon Quest always comes with a charming story, an ambitious, impressive world, up-to-date visuals, and some combat changes to keep the games feeling fresh. Pokemon has lacked just about all of that. I was getting tired of Pokemon, and I was definitely not alone. So Legends Arceus is a much appreciated change of pace. Legends Arceus takes place in an ancient, mostly uninhabited Sinnoh region, prominently featured in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. It's not yet called Sinnoh, going by the name Hisui instead. And the structure is vastly different from that of most Pokemon games. There are no gyms to challenge, there's only one town to explore, and there are barely any trainer battles here at all. Instead, this game focuses on exploring the wilderness, discovering Pokemon, and creating the region's first Pokédex. Such a drastic change was a huge risk from Game Freak. Even if I had grown somewhat tired of the series, sales showed no signs of slowing down, and it's hard to justify fixing what clearly isn't broken. But Legends Arceus isn't just a drastic change for variety's sake. It's not just a knee-jerk reaction to the fan backlash that followed Sword and Shield's release. It's a very well thought out game that I'd argue captures the core of Pokemon better than any game before it. The exploration of this game really stands out. You're given 5 different regions, all representing different biomes to search through. The way traversal evolves as you unlock new Pokemon to ride as the game progresses honestly reminded me a little bit of Xenoblade Chronicles X. It wasn't quite that good, but seeing the world recontextualized from new perspectives was always exciting. When I first visited the Obsidian Fieldlands, your standard grassy plains area, I was thrilled when I found Oreburrow Tunnel, packed with valuable resources and some rare Pokemon. When I revisited it in the post-game, I was just as excited to find the secrets that lie atop the mountain it bore through, with the help of my newly obtained rideable Pokemon. Another thing that really adds to this game's exploration is the nature of Pokemon encounters. Pokemon naturally roam the world now, and they're everywhere. Run-ins with them are no longer these long, drawn-out random encounters. You just see a bunch of Pokemon in the world, and you can even throw Pokeballs without engaging them in battle at all. Because of how many Pokemon you get to see, you're practically guaranteed to see some rare ones before the game is over. I even found a few shinies myself before the credits rolled. And because encountering a Pokemon consumes fractions of a second rather than minutes, I never had the feeling of frustration kick in when I ran into the millionth Zubat. The exploration would already be quite enjoyable without any Pokemon, with all the neat landmarks that tie into Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum to explore. But the Pokemon, which were already a blast to collect in prior games, are now more fun to find than ever before, and they make exploration constantly rewarding and exciting. At its core, the combat of Legends Arceus is pretty much the same as that of any other Pokemon game. You train a team of 6 monsters to take place in turn-based battles using 4 moves at a time. There are a ton of changes, big and small, that make it a lot more engaging though. For the obvious changes, the battles take place in the overworld, there's no separate arena you're warped to, and you can even walk around while they happen. Each move can be mastered at a certain level, and this will allow Pokemon to choose to use it in either Agile style, which increases the speed but decreases the damage, or Strong style, which is the opposite, for double the PP cost. And turn order is no longer set when a battle begins. If your speed is high enough, you can go twice in a row. If it's too low, your opponent will. These tweaks give the battle system just enough substance that I no longer feel like I'm just mindlessly mashing through menus for just about every fight. I have to think at least a little bit. But the battle system is still super simple, and I imagine it would still be easily grasped by just about anyone. As for the small changes, I honestly think they might be more important. Battles in Legends Arceus go by so much faster than ever before. There's no slow decrease of health, no awkwardly inserted text boxes to describe the obvious. There's not even any need to navigate through the item bag each time you want to throw a Pokeball. Tired of having to see the start of the evolution animation for some Pokemon you don't want to evolve yet every time they level up? Well, now you can just trigger this evolution from the menu, whenever you want. Tired of going through the arduous trade process back and forth with a friend just to get Gengar? Well, now there's an item for that as an alternative. There are just so many slight adjustments to the systems that have been weighing down the series for years. I genuinely think that in my playtime I've saved hours of my life thanks to these quality of life updates. Best of all has to be the changes to how moves work. When you unlock a new move, it doesn't replace another. It adds to a pool of moves you can select from. This saves a lot of time and adds a lot of potential strategy. So overall, the gameplay is pretty excellent. This game is clever, engaging exploration, better battles than the series has ever seen before, and some really great quality of life improvements. But what about the story? Story is not everything in Pokemon, and I don't go into Pokemon games expecting the most compelling of narratives. However, in the past, they offered entertaining stories at the very least. I love the lore hidden in Sinnoh and Unova, and the crazy character arcs in the original Sun and Moon. But after Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon absolutely butchered the original story and Sword and Shield offered one of the most lackluster narratives I've ever encountered in any game, with practically non-existent character motivations, I had little hope. Thankfully, Legends Arceus was able to turn things around here too. Legends Arceus does not tell a profoundly meaningful tale. It's not the most original thing I've ever seen. But it expands upon the lore of Sinnoh established in prior games in a pretty interesting way. It has groups with fascinating dynamics. It has villains with understandable motivations. It has character arcs. I was excited to see how it would progress. For a Pokemon game, it's just about as good as you could get. It complements the gameplay perfectly. There's some weird pacing at times and some weird actions that seem out of character, but I still genuinely enjoyed the story here a lot. And the soundtrack is pretty excellent as well. Pokemon has never struggled to put out good music, but this is definitely the most unique, well-produced soundtrack they've ever done. It combines Breath of the Wild-esque atmospheric music with often epic 9+ minute reinterpretations of songs found in Diamond and Pearl. It reminded me a lot of the music in Final Fantasy VII Remake. There aren't a ton of songs here that'll get stuck in your head, but the music sounds nice, the callbacks to original Sinnoh music are well done, and the soundtrack always fits the game perfectly. Really, I have almost entirely positive things to say about Pokémon Legends Arceus, at least in terms of its core design. I love the gameplay. I enjoyed the story more than I have from that of any Pokemon game in a long time. And the soundtrack feels like it has more effort and thought put into it than ever before. Really, the only problem I have is a general lack of polish. Though I must admit, in this game it's a pretty big problem. First of all, just look at the graphics. Now, I don't think this game looks terrible. I quite like the art style. But the pop-in, the ground textures, the low poly models, it's just so rough. Dragon Quest XI can run on the Switch. Shin Megami Tensei 5 can run on the Switch. I know the console is capable of much more than this. Glitches are also fairly common. Sometimes the map would lie about the presence of some Pokemon to me, sometimes animations would go out of control, and sometimes the game would just crash. Even the cutscenes feel unpolished. While the characters do finally emote, it's not exactly natural, and the lack of voice acting really stands out. Still though, Pokémon Legends Arceus is a fantastic game. It's really cleverly designed, and it moves the series further in just the way I'd hoped it would. The core gameplay loop is genuinely a blast to engage with. I've already completed the Pokédex and every side quest, and I'm still playing the game because I frankly don't want to stop. Even shiny hunting is fun here. I just desperately hope that the Pokemon Company continues moving in this direction, and I hope they can put out more polished games in the future. Thank you guys for watching this video, I really appreciate it. If you liked it, I'd also really appreciate it if you liked, commented, hit the notification bell, and or subscribed. I'd also recommend you check out some of my other content, like my 2-part ranking of almost every other first-party Nintendo Switch game. If you want to see additional updates about the channel, follow me on Twitter or Instagram, or join my Discord server, all in the description below. Thank you all for watching, have a great rest of your day.